A boy who watched a monster destroy his parents' souls as a kid. 10 years of unanswered questions, a shady past he can't wash off his hands, and a title, The Reaper, that says everything about who he used to be. Now he's been dragged into a world beyond this one, standing next to soul assassins, holding weapons that appeared out of thin air, and realizing that the answers he's been chasing his whole life might be a lot darker than he expected. In a world where death isn't the end, where dying once isn't even close to enough, a young boy is hiding inside a closet, barely breathing, watching a monster wearing a human face tear his parents apart right in front of him. His father's body is already on the floor, and his mother, she wasn't just killed. Her soul was destroyed, no resurrection, no second chance, nothing. Gone in every way a person can be gone. Then the story jumps forward. That same boy, now older, is sitting across from a psychiatrist. His name is Kasai Mura, and he's been coming to these sessions for months trying to put that night somewhere he can't reach it anymore. The psychiatrist thinks he's making real progress. She's practically glowing about it. And that cheerful expression on her face is driving him absolutely insane, because he spent a fortune on these sessions and walked away with nothing to show for it. He gets up, tells her they might need to reschedule since university is starting, and heads for the door. She calls after him, already looking forward to next time. He closes the door behind him. Not gently. Outside, he's walking and muttering under his breath about how this woman has been stringing him along with nonsense that clearly isn't working. But before he gets too far, he slips into a quiet alleyway and waits, because he noticed he was being followed, and instead of ignoring it, he decided to just walk straight into a corner and let them come to him. They do. And it turns out these aren't strangers. These are people from Kasai's past. Apparently he used to be part of a very specific kind of organization, and their boss was not happy to hear that one of his best just walked away without a word. The guy delivering the message makes it clear his boss is being generous by sending someone to talk instead of something worse. He even pulls out the guilt angle, reminding Kasai that their boss found him when he was just a kid babbling nonsense about souls and spirits, and asking if he's really going to throw that all away. Not exactly a touching speech. Kasai flicks his cigarette aside, turns around, and starts walking, basically daring the guy to do something about it. That lands exactly how you'd expect. The man warns him, very specifically, that he's going to enjoy what comes next. They don't notice the third person watching their whole conversation from the shadows nearby. Weird haircut, strange way of standing. Definitely trouble. The story moves forward again, and now it's Kasai's first day of college. He's heading out when a voice stops him. It's his neighbor, a sweet old grandmother named Ms. Chow, who heard about his first day and made him lunch to celebrate. He tries to refuse, opens the bag, sees a mountain of dumplings, and immediately changes his mind completely. He thanks her with what sounds suspiciously like genuine emotion, and she tells him the dumplings were her son's favorite. Kasai promises to bring something back from the bakery on his way home. She tries to wave it off, and then her husband's voice booms from the back room. Chocolate fudge cake with walnuts, specifically. She turns toward him with a look that suggests the walnuts aren't the only thing he should be worried about. She tells him those walnuts will destroy his dentures, then tells Kasai to just bring the cake without the walnuts. Problem solved. Mostly. The whole little scene actually lifts Kasai's mood, and he thanks them both for always looking out for him. They're just happy to see him smile, because most of the time he keeps to himself, stays distant, keeps the world at arm's length. And honestly, you can't blame him. At 8 years old, he lost both his parents. The official record called it a gas leak, an accident. And the traumatized kid screaming that a man came and did something to his mother's soul? Diagnosed as a trauma-induced hallucination. Nobody listened. Nobody believed him. For 10 years he tried to find the man he saw that night, tried to make people understand what really happened, and got nowhere. Eventually, he told himself he was moving on, that it was time to leave it behind. He even said it out loud, to both his parents, quietly like a goodbye, that he loves them but he can't keep living inside that night forever. Whether he actually believes that is a different question. Fast forward a few hours and Kasai is already exhausted from his first day of college, which, according to him, is somehow more grueling than running from cops and rival gangs at all hours. Then he hears something. Sounds coming from next door. Which is weird, because that sweet old couple is almost always quiet. He presses his ear to the wall to listen. And then a gunshot goes off on the other side. His instincts fire immediately and he jumps back. First thought, call the police. Second thought, they won't believe him. They never have. Third thought, that's where Ms. Chow and her husband live. He goes to check. Out in the hallway, there's a man in a strange outfit banging on their door. Then Kasai sees what's in the man's hand. Something that looks like a blade. Before he can even process that, projectiles tear straight through the door from the other side and go through the man's body. The guy drops almost instantly, riddled with holes, completely done. The door opens slowly, and out walks the same man from the alleyway, the one who promised he was going to enjoy himself. Apparently someone gave him the wrong apartment number. His actual target was standing right beside him the whole time. Their eyes meet. Both of them understand the situation at exactly the same moment. The man raises his gun, but Kasai is already moving, slipping out of the line of fire, knocking the weapon aside, driving his palm into it. It all happens so fast the guy's brain doesn't even finish processing before Kasai swings. He means to hit the jaw, hits the chest instead. The impact still sends the man flying several meters back into the room. And that's when Kasai sees them, Ms. Chow and her husband, lying on the floor, and right next to them the chocolate fudge cake he bought on his way home. He's still staring when the man's voice cuts through the room, reminding him there's no escaping this time. He fires again. Kasai moves faster than the bullet, disarms him with a kick, follows it with a punch directly to the face. The man becomes briefly and dramatically a fountain of blood. But Kasai isn't finished. Not even close. He grabs the man by the throat, pulls him close and tells him to do something. Go ahead. The man, somehow still smirking, tells him he finally understands why they called this kid the Reaper. But he also knows something else. He knows Kasai never finishes the job. Every mission, their boss had to send someone to clean up after him because he could never bring himself to go all the way. And now he swings the knife directly at Kasai's face, banking on that exact hesitation. Then another gunshot rings out. The man stops moving. Kasai spins around. Two people are standing just outside the window. One of them is the weird haircut guy from the alleyway, and he's the one who just pulled the trigger. They're wearing clothes that look exactly like the man who got shot out in the hallway. Kasai demands to know who they are. They tell him he should really be saying thank you instead. He asks how they even got there. He never heard them approach, never sensed them at all. That detail clearly means something to the man with the strange haircut, because he looks at Kasai like he just found something he's been searching for. He reaches for the blade on the ground. They immediately advise against that, very calmly, very directly, explaining that touching it would result in him joining their recently deceased friend in whatever comes after. Meanwhile, the woman finds the body of their colleague in the hallway, and neither of them is exactly thrilled. But she doesn't dwell on it. She tells her partner to prepare the target for the jump while she handles things here. Her partner pushes back. With only two of them, the risk is too high. She doesn't want to hear it. She reminds him the cleaners are too far away. The target's soul is already in transit, and they can't wait for an anchor. He doesn't fully follow any of that. Kasai definitely doesn't. But somehow it makes enough sense to the partner that he agrees. Then the partner sits down right in front of Kasai, ignoring the fact that this is a very strange thing to do, and starts complimenting his reflexes. Kasai, not interested, asks what all this talk about souls means. And that response, direct, no hesitation, cutting straight through everything, genuinely excites the man. He says Kasai's soul density isn't bad either. Exactly the type he's been looking for. Kasai asks what soul density even is. The man decides to show him instead, fiddling with his watch, and explains they're assassins. But not the ordinary kind. Their job is to kill a target twice. The first kill takes out the physical body. The second kill destroys the soul entirely, preventing reincarnation. No next life.
Permanent érasure.
Something about those words hits differently. A memory surfaces. A man standing over his mother's body, something glowing in his hand. The partner snaps him back by extending an invitation. Since they're short-handed right now and he clearly has the skills, would Kasai like to join them? A trip to a place beyond this world. The soul's realm. Kasai is half convinced, but asks for proof anyway. And the woman, who has been ignoring this entire conversation, tells her partner they should just drop the whole idea entirely. The woman isn't sold on bringing an outsider in. Too risky, too unpredictable, too many variables. But the man with the weird haircut, Rain, isn't backing down. He pulls out his phone and shows her something. Whatever is on that screen is enough to make even her go quiet, because there's something about Kasai's soul that she's never seen before. Something that has her genuinely unsettled. She starts to say something about it, but Rain cuts her off. They're on a clock, explanations later, movement now. So here's the setup. They need two people to enter the soul's realm. One goes in to do the actual work, and the other stays connected as an anchor, keeping their partner tethered to this side so they don't get fully absorbed into that world, which is apparently a one-way ticket to nowhere good. Simple enough system, honestly. Two people, one job, don't lose each other. What could go wrong? Kasai, for his part, is not buying any of it. Soul realm, reincarnation, soul assassins. It sounds like someone read too many web novels and decided to make it their whole personality. He's in the middle of saying exactly that when Rain cuts him off with a completely different energy. Calm, flat, done with the theatrics. He makes one thing clear, he doesn't care whether Kasai believes him. They have a job to finish and no time for a debate. Answers come after. But first, he asks Kasai one question. Does he actually want to know if spirits are real or not? Yeah. More than anything, that question has been eating him alive for 10 years. If these people have answers, real ones, then he has no reason to walk away. So he agrees. That's all Rain needed to hear. He tells Selena to get things started and puts her on watch duty while they handle things inside. She's not thrilled, but she knows they're out of options, so she gets into position. Before sending them off, she locks eyes with Rain and tells him not to make her regret this. He acts like he didn't hear her. Classic Rain, apparently. A massive magical circle forms beneath their feet. And then something strange happens to Kasai. A bright yellow glow erupts from his chest, slowly expanding, swallowing everything around him. Before he can process what's happening, the entire world goes white. He opens his eyes somewhere else entirely. New place, completely unfamiliar. His first instinct is to panic, which is fair. Rain, standing behind him, looks genuinely impressed. Apparently most people don't hold it together this well on their first jump. Kasai doesn't want compliments. He wants to know if these people drugged him. Rain tells him no and reminds him this is exactly what he agreed to, answers after the job. Then he asks if Kasai is planning to chicken out now that they've come this far. Not a chance. Not with his mother's death still sitting unanswered after all this time. He tells Rain to move. Rain smiles and makes a deal. Help him take down the soul of their target, and he'll tell Kasai everything about what happened to his parents. Before Kasai can respond, Rain just casually steps off the roof of the building they're standing on. Kasai lunges forward trying to stop him, reaches the edge, and looks down to find Rain standing on the side of the building like gravity personally offended him and he decided to stop obeying it. The look he's giving Kasai from the wall is the kind of look that would make anyone want to throw something at him. Rain snaps back to business though, 15 minutes before the mission fails. They need to find the target now. Kasai is still stuck on the part where this man is casually standing sideways on a building like it's completely normal. Then a voice pipes up beside him. He turns. A floating orb with a rifle mounted on top of it is hovering at eye level. Kasai nearly jumps out of his skin. That's Selena, using some kind of projection to scout the area remotely while simultaneously watching over their physical bodies in the real world and preparing to pull them out when the job is done. Multitasking queen, honestly. She also takes the opportunity to remind Rain, again, that this was a terrible idea and the kid is just dead weight. Rain is almost starting to agree, but he catches himself. They never actually explained anything to Kasai, so the least they can do is start with the basics. He introduces himself, Rain Choi, assassin of the Soul Hunter Association. Kasai gives his name in return. And then Rain turns and starts walking toward the edge. He tells Kasai to follow. Kasai stares at the drop below him, has exactly 0 instructions. has already come this far, says forget it, lifts his foot off the ledge, and lets go. The world flips. The wall becomes the floor. He's standing on the side of the building like it's the most natural thing in the world. Rain looks genuinely impressed. First try. Not bad. Kasai immediately demands answers. Rain says after the job, same answer, different delivery. But Kasai pushes for at least something, asking why they're hunting a man who's already dead, and whether the goal is to prevent his reincarnation. Rain confirms it. That's exactly why they're here, to make sure this particular soul never comes back. He does something then. A symbol flares on his neck, dark electricity crackles out of his body, and a sword made entirely of blood materializes in his hand. Just pulls a weapon out of nowhere like it's nothing. Kasai stares. Before he can say anything, Selena cuts in. She's found the target. They look up. Standing on a rooftop nearby is a figure radiating a deep purple aura. Corrupt soul, Rain says, which is putting it mildly, because this man's soul has literally grown a tail. Like a tail. After death, this guy apparently decided to become his true self, and his true self has a tail. You really do find out who people are eventually. Kasai can barely recognize him as the same man from earlier. Rain tells him to stay put while he handles this. Kasai wants to come anyway. Rain says no, anchor only. Selena tries to get Rain's attention. Rain ignores her to argue with Kasai. Kasai ignores Selena to argue with Rain. Selena is now at the end of her rope with both of them. She finally shouts loud enough that both of them stop. She tells Rain to look at the target. The target is gone. Yeah, that's bad. Because by the time anyone looks up, the creature is already directly behind Rain. And Kasai, the loudmouth who caused the whole distraction, screams a warning. He didn't need to. Rain's reaction speed is on another level entirely. He moves before the attack lands, activates his bleeding crescent, and an explosion tears through that section of the building, buying him space, buying him time. Somehow, though, he gets pushed a little too far and goes plummeting downward before catching himself just in time. He doesn't seem particularly bothered. If anything, he seems like he's having fun. He thanks the lizard man because yes, the corrupt soul has now fully committed to the aesthetic and is looking very much like a lizard, for saving him the climb. Then he hears footsteps. He turns. Kasai is sprinting directly at him. Rain starts to remind him of the whole stay out of it order, but Kasai grabs him and yanks him sideways just before a volley of spikes tears through exactly where Rain was standing. So Kasai did just save his life. Unfortunately, in the process they both end up in the worst possible spot, directly above the lizard man who is already winding up the same attack again. Rain reacts fast, shoves Kasai off him, kicks him hard enough to knock the air out of his lungs, and both of them clear the path a half-second before a massive spike tears through the floor beneath them. Kasai is winded, lying on his back, and furious. He literally just saved this man and got kicked in the stomach for it. Rain points out that the kick is what saved him. Selena confirms. Kasai cannot argue with the math, but he reserves the right to be annoyed about it. The creature is attacking again, and Rain is done playing defense. It's burning time they don't have. He activates Crimson Rise, and a massive wave of blood erupts from his blade and tears straight through the creature's spiked appendages. Effective. But now the creature has vanished, sending its tentacles out from multiple different angles, making it nearly impossible to pin down its exact location. Then Rain sees it, one single massive spike shooting up through the ground toward him. He moves just enough to dodge and something clicks. If the creature is only sending one appendage now, it's because the distance between them is too great to send more. Which means if Rain follows the spike all the way back down to its source, the game ends right there. He activates his blood art and drops like a meteor straight into the building below. Dramatic entrance, incredible commitment, genuinely cool execution. The building is made of glass. He barely scratches it, which is a moment. He gets through just enough to slip inside, and somehow, through some combination of instinct and whatever a soul hunter senses actually are, he immediately knows exactly which wall the creature is hiding behind. He points his blade at it. Cracks start forming. Then the wall explodes outward and the lizard man's head comes through it, looking absolutely furious about being found. Rain does not care even slightly about its feelings. He gets into position and prepares to finish this. Back with Kasai, who is standing around doing nothing and has now graduated from confused to actively irritated about it. Selena, tired of listening to him complain, drops something on him. A reminder that this is his first time in the soul's realm, and there's a very real possibility he could get himself killed in here. Kasai stops, because that doesn't make sense to him. This isn't his physical body, so how exactly can he die? Yeah, turns out it's not your real body, doesn't mean what Kasai thought it meant. Even in here, his soul can be completely wiped out, and if that happens, his physical body back in the real world becomes an empty shell. So yes, functionally, he can die, just in a slightly more existential way than usual. Selena tells him not to stress too much about it though, because Rain is built different and a creature like this is basically a warm-up for him. Speaking of Rain, the man is having the time of his life in there. He's slicing through the lizard creature like it's a light workout, explosions going off in the background, the monster getting flung out of craters trying to keep up with a guy who is clearly operating on a completely different level. 7 minutes left on the clock. Rain leaps out of the building ready to end this, telling the creature there's no point in resisting since it's not walking out of here no matter what it does. And here's the thing, the lizard man isn't mindless. He still has his memories from when he was alive. He knows exactly who Rain is, he can read how Rain moves, and he's already done the math. His chances of winning this fight are basically zero. So he does what any cornered creature does. He stops trying to win and starts looking for the easier target. He finds Kasai almost immediately. Of course he does. He retreats back into the building. Rain is annoyed, sick of the constant running. But this time he's not letting it happen. He goes in right behind him. A full-on chase through the building. Rain closing the gap with every second, until the creature kicks through a wall and bursts outside. Kasai spots both of them appearing in the distance and gets distracted watching Rain. Because honestly, Rain does look pretty cool right now, which means neither of them notices the appendage flying directly at Kasai's face until it's already there. Pure instinct saves him. He jerks his head to the side at the last possible second. Then he hears the creature screaming his name, saying it's going to finish what it started. Not ideal. Rain steps in immediately, putting himself between Kasai and the creature, reminding it who the actual opponent is here. The lizard man is backed into a corner with nowhere to go, so he asks one question. Why is Rain so determined to erase him? Rain's answer is simple. It's the job. People like this don't get second chances at life. The creature doesn't like that answer. But what really sets it off is looking at the kid standing behind Rain. Because apparently, if they're talking about people who deserve to be erased, Kasai's name belongs on that list too. The lizard man starts laughing, actually laughing, and lays it all out. This kid used to do some very dark things. The title of Reaper wasn't given to him for nothing. If the creature's hands are stained with blood, Kasai is practically swimming in it. He tells Rain to drop the self-righteous act. Rain doesn't engage with it. His target is the lizard man, and that's the beginning and end of his concern right now. Furious and done caring about consequences, the creature launches its appendages, not at Rain but directly at Kasai. Rain braces to intercept, expecting them to come his way. They don't. They sail right past him. Kasai freezes completely. Body locked, brain locked, everything just stops. And in that split second, his whole life flashes through his head. Every mistake, every moment he wishes he could take back, every version of himself he isn't proud of. Then the sound of flesh tearing cuts through everything. It isn't Kasai's. Rain took the hit. Multiple appendages, straight through his torso. He's bleeding, barely standing, and when Kasai asks why, Rain says it plainly. He's the one who dragged the kid into this, which makes his safety Rain's responsibility. That's it. No dramatic speech. The lizard man finds this hilarious. Calls Rain a fool for throwing himself in front of someone like Kasai. Points out there's no one left here strong enough to stop him now, which means they're both dying right here. Kasai is holding a bleeding Rain in his arms, and something breaks open inside him. He thinks about everyone he's lost, everyone he wasn't strong enough to protect. He thinks about why he joined the organization in the first place, because he was weak, and he thought surrounding himself with dangerous people would eventually make him dangerous enough to find his parents' killer. But nothing changed. He was still the same person who borrowed other people's strength and called it his own. And then a voice speaks to him, asks what he wants most right now. The answer comes without thinking. He wants the power to destroy the thing standing in front of him. Not just because it's a threat, but because he knows this man, knows what he did, knows the lives he ruined over the years. And he knows that Rain's mission is right. A soul like this doesn't deserve another chance at anything. The voice seems satisfied with that answer. Tells Kasai to reach into the abyss. The lizard man notices the shift first. A thick yellow aura starts pouring off Kasai. Dense, overwhelming, unlike anything it's seen. And then two massive guns made entirely of darkness materialize in Kasai's hands, appearing out of nowhere like they were always supposed to be there. Kasai stares at them, has no idea what just happened. The creature doesn't give him time to figure it out. It launches its appendages immediately trying to end this before those weapons get used. Kasai freezes again. And Rain, bleeding from multiple holes in his chest, uses the last of his strength to block the attack one more time. Then he looks up at Kasai and smiles. Because this was the plan all along. He knew the boy had something dormant inside him, and he knew exactly what it would take to wake it up. Sacrifice himself to trigger it. He tells Kasai to finish what he started. That's enough. Kasai locks in, raises both guns, and pulls the trigger. A massive wave of golden energy erupts from the weapons and tears straight through the air. The recoil should have sent him flying. Somehow it doesn't. And the aim is perfect. The creature looks up and sees a giant skull. Ghost Rider energy, full commitment, no survivors. Bearing down on it with its jaws open. It tries to block with its appendages. They melt instantly. The explosion tears straight through the building and detonates into the open air beyond it. Selena, watching all of this from outside, is completely speechless. Rain, still smirking despite being covered in holes, reminds her what he said earlier. The kid has potential. Told her so. In his final moments, the lizard man has one last thing to say to Kasai. That he can't run from his past. That without everything those dark years gave him, he'd be nothing right now. And that sooner or later, betraying the people he came from is going to catch up to him. Then Selena's voice cuts through. Something is happening in the real world. She's pulling them both out right now. Kasai opens his eyes. He's back in the apartment, lying on the floor, the lizard man's motionless body next to him. He looks at the face and hears those final words playing back in his head. That he'd be nothing without them. He doesn't believe that. Going to them was the worst decision he ever made. Because if he hadn't, his hands wouldn't look the way they do now. He pushes it aside and checks on Rain. The man with multiple soul holes in his torso waves it off. That damage doesn't carry over to the physical body. So a good night's sleep and he's back to full. Genuinely wish that worked in real life. Then loud banging on the apartment door. Police. Someone called it in. That realization lands on Kasai like a bucket of cold water. These two aren't law enforcement. They never said they were. Which means he just risked his life helping what are essentially a pair of unlicensed soul assassins. And now cops are at the door. That's on him, technically. Rain doesn't give him time to spiral. He picks up Selena and tells Kasai to stop overthinking and decide what he wants to do. Selena is less patient about it. She slaps a mask on Kasai's face, pulls out her weapon, and makes things very clear. They don't work for anyone. They're not giving statements, and nobody is stopping them. But she also points out that he's welcome to stay behind and explain to the police exactly what happened in this apartment tonight, with his criminal record. Good luck with that. He knows she's right. He takes a moment to silently apologize to the old couple. Selena tells him to make up his mind already. The door slams open, cops pour in, and the three of them are already gone. Out the window onto the rooftops, running. The lead officer is certain he heard voices. He tells his men to sweep the building. Then he looks out at the adjacent rooftop and spots three figures sprinting across it like it's nothing. He grabs his radio and calls for backup. A police car shows up and starts pursuit. A car, chasing people who are running across rooftops. He really should have called a helicopter. But here we are,